Hey guys, welcome to my F1 2025 Drivers' Championship prediction. We're going to go from 20th to the World Champion. This is a prediction. This is my opinions, so I might upset some of you. Don't take it personally. It is just based on what I want to happen. A bit of what I think will happen, but my top five, I would say, is what I want it to be rather than what it could be. So please don't get offended in the comments. I'm also always happy to hear what you think will happen in the 2025 F1 Drivers' Championship. But let's get into what are my predictions and what is the grid lineup. This is the 2025 grid lineup. I'll quickly run through you it in case you don't know. In the Red Bull, it is Max Verstappen, the world champion, and he's a second driver, Liam Lawson, back in the RB first team, alongside. In the Mercedes is led by George Russell, no longer Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes #1 driver, and Kimi Antonelli is the #2. In the red Ferrari, it is Charles Leclerc alongside the newly signed Lewis Hamilton for the first time. We're going to see him in the red. In the reigning Constructors World Championship, the lineup remains the same. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri looking to go back to back in the Constructors, as what a pairing that is. In the Aston Martin, it is Alonso as the #1 driver, and somehow Lance Stroll remains that second driver. Don't know how he's still in F1. Jesus, someone get him out of here. In the Alpine, it is Gasly and Jack Doohan, a rookie there. In the Williams, it is Albon, and in the second seat is Carlos Sainz. Unfortunately, obviously losing that seat because of the free agency of Lewis Hamilton joining the Ferrari. In the RB second team, it is Tsunoda with a newly rookie Hadjar, who I believe is a very good driver in F2. In the Kick Sauber, it is Nico Hülkenberg alongside Bortoleto. And in the Haas, we will see the return of Oliver Bearman, and the partner is Ocon. That is the 20 drivers at the minute. Obviously, we know changes can happen throughout the season. In my predictions, I have not made any driver swaps and predictions. So it is going to be the top 20 of what I predict, moving into the 20th to 15th position. In 20th, I have gone with Gabriel Bortoleto, who is driving the Kick Sauber. To be honest, I don't know too much about him in the F1 scene. My reason why I put him last is I just don't think the Saubers are very quick. I don't think their car is very good. And that, for me, is why he's going to struggle. He might be a great driver, but in a car that will not perform, and I spec down in the lower end of the Constructors, I'm going Gabriel Bortoleto in 20th. Moving into 19th, I've gone for another rookie, which is Jack Doohan. He is driving the Alpine. I think Alpine will do very well. I just don't think Jack will deliver compared to his teammate, which we'll get onto later in the video. Again, the rookies, I don't know too much about their careers in F1. Moving into 18th, I've got Isaac Hadjar, who is driving the RB. Again, like the other two, rookie in the F1 this season. Again, I believe he is the last year's Formula 2 champion. If you can let me know in the comments down below if I'm correct. If I am, I apologise. But I've got him in 18th. I think between these three, I think they do score points. I'm predicting Gabriel Portolesso at least 3, Jack Doohan 3, and I think Isaac Hadjar might hit 4. I think the way these rookies get points is probably a wet race or even DNFs. I don't think they're going to out and out be able to compete in a full race with 20 drivers and score points. Into 17th, probably a surprise pick for most people, is Lance Stroll. Somehow this guy is still in Formula 1, and it is because of his daddy. There is no way, if Lance Stroll's dad was in charge of Aston Martin, he would be in a Formula 1 seat. I think I could do better driver than him, and that's why I put him in 17th. I think he's going to be outclassed, outshone by lots and lots of drivers this year. And I think we're going to say goodbye, Lance Stroll. Get out of Formula 1. In 16th, I've put Esteban Ocon. For the first time in his Formula 1 career, he's going to be the lead driver. And he's going to be driving the Haas. No longer a part of the Alpine team. He's dropped down to Haas. And for the first time this season, Haas is not the rock bottom team in Formula 1. Which is why I've put him high up in... kind of high up in the table, mid-table. But I think he doesn't have that killer instinct that you need from a number one driver. I think there was very, very big weaknesses in his drive, and I think it's going to show, because in 15th I've put his teammate Oliver Bearman. Yes, you can say a rookie, however he did drive in last year's season. I believe it was 3 races, and he scored points in the Ferrari and in the Haas. And I think he's going to have a good season this year. Yes, 15th overall is not great, but I think he's going to perform well. I think there's going to be entertaining races, and I think he'll pick up a few points to help Haas be in between the 8th and 5th. Probably 8th and 6th place in the Constructors, which is good because it's still a lot of money for a team that's been down the bottom of the table for many years in the Constructors. Moving into the 15th to 10th, obviously we spoke about Oliver Bearman in 15th, but in 14th I've gone Alex Albon in the Williams. I think Williams are going to have a good car this year. I think they're going to be knocking on the door of that top 4 Constructors Championship. I don't think they're going to breach it, but I think they're going to be in that 6th to 5th place in the Constructors. Alex Albon, very reliable, can always score points on his day. Obviously there is mistakes in his driving game, but I think he's a very good, decent driver, and I think he could at least get 20 points this season. If I pull up last year's Drivers' Championship, I think he did decent. So he came 16th, which obviously isn't great, but he got 12 points. So I'm expecting 20 points this season, which is still good. Into 13th is Yuki Tsunoda. Now Tsunoda was 12th last year in the Drivers' Constructors with 30 points, and I'm expecting him to be around that 30 to 35 point mark this year. A good driver. Yuki Tsunoda is at one of that situations where he needs a good season. If he doesn't perform this year, he can say goodbye to the RB second driver's seat. However, I think if he's not going to go to the Red Bull seat next year, there are going to be contenders for him to move from that Red Bull Junior team, because he needs to. He is a good driver, and with the right car, with the right nurturing, I think he could be a good contender in the championship in a couple of years' time. This is his season to do or die if he really wants to be that number two driver to Max Verstappen in the RB for next year's season. In 12th, I picked Nico Hülkenberg, and we already spoke about Kik Sauber not having a great car. So why is Nico Hülkenberg 12th? Well, the reason why I put Nico Hülkenberg 12th was because he finished 11th last year. Now, despite that was in a Haas. But Haas weren't great at the beginning in last year. And I think what did him so well is he's very experienced. He's very, gets the elbow out when he needs to. And I think that is going to be key in Kik Sauber's season. I don't think he'll do enough to get Sauber out of the 10th to 8th position in the Constructors, but I'm expecting at least 35 points from Nico Hülkenberg. Now, these aren't going to be race wins, they aren't going to be podiums, but if he can pick up 1 or 2 points, the 9th and 10th positions in races over the season, he will do very well, and he's going to be in that middle of the pack of the Drivers' Championship. In 11th, I've got Pierre Gasly. Now, Pierre Gasly finished 10th last year, so it's one place drop off. However, obviously, there is mixed reviews on the Alpine this season and how it will perform. I generally think Pierre Gasly is a good driver. I think he can do very well. Again, race wins, podiums, maybe out of reach. Maybe in a wet weather race or a couple of DNFs, then maybe he might get a podium. Obviously, we've seen him be on the top step of a podium before, but I think that is a little bit out of reach. And I think a couple of points this year, I think he could get at least 40 to 45 points this season for the Alpine, and definitely help them push up between the 8th and 5th position in the Constructors' Championship for Alpine. In 10th, I've gone a newly rookie, Kimi Antonelli, the Mercedes second driver. Why is he so low? Well, obviously he was driving a Mercedes. In the last couple of years, the Mercedes have had very trouble with their liveries. But I do think he's going to be a good driver. I just think there is a different step into the Formula 1, which does take a while. Obviously, Mercedes have put faith in Kim Antonelli. So I don't think that's Lamb's worrying he's going to get dropped or whatever. I just think there is a little bit of a grace period where he needs to get used to his car. He needs to get used to the elbows of the Formula 1 season. And I think he could definitely score at least 50 to 70 points in the Mercedes, depending on how quick Mercedes is. Obviously, until the first race in Melbourne, we won't find out how quick cars are actually. And I do disclaimer, I haven't watched all of pre-season testing, so don't come at me for saying a car's not quick or it is too quick or whatever. This is just my thoughts and what I've seen from the highlights itself. I put Kimi Antonelli in 10th. So 10th to 5th, obviously, Kimi Antonelli in 10th. In 9th, I've gone with another second seat driver, Liam Lawson in the Red Bull. we've seen Liam Lawson in the RB Red Bull team before. It didn't work out. Do I think he's got better? A little bit. I don't think he's good as Perez was for Max. And I think this decision to go with Liam Lawson will bite RB Red Bull in the backside. I think they should have went Yuki Tsunoda. Because I think Liam Lawson is just still a little bit too more inexperienced for that drive in the main seat, or the drive for the main team. And again, like Kimi, I think there will be a bit of uncertainty, bit of getting used to the car. Obviously, there's a different level between where Liam was last year and obviously Kim and Antonelli in F2 to that step up into their teams, or the Mercedes and the Red Bull. So I've put him ninth with a prediction of 60 to 70 points, just like Kimi. In eighth, I've got Fernando Alonso. Now, I think this might be a little bit of a biased and a punching above his weight. I wouldn't be surprised if Alonso finished below Liam Lawson and Antonelli. But this is my prediction. This is what I want to happen. And I want Fernando Alonso to do well. Obviously, Aston Martin seem to be struggling in pre-season testing. Coming towards the first race weekend this weekend. But if there is one man that's going to help Aston Martin get points, help them do well, it's going to be this man, Fernando Alonso. Former world champion, can do it very well. He did it. He showed his quality last year and the year before in the resurgence of Aston Martin. And I'm predicting 85 to 90 points for Fernando Alonso. In seventh, we got the return of Carlos Sainz. This time not in a Ferrari, but in the Williams. And I think he's going to do very well. Obviously, it is unknown territory to see if Williams are going to have a good car or not. But the smooth operator can pull out wins out the bag, can pull podiums out the bag. And when he's driving for his future, he's one of the best. Unfortunately, didn't get to keep that seat with Ferrari because of the free agent of Lewis Hamilton. But yeah, I think smooth operator Carlos Sainz will have a good first debut season in the Williams and potentially get that RB seat for next year. In sixth, I've gone for George Russell, the lead Mercedes. Again, unknown certainty of how well Mercedes' car is actually. If it is to go anything for the last 2 or 3 years, George Russell is going to have a tough time. For the first time this year, he is the lead driver. Obviously, you could say maybe he was last year, but obviously Lewis Hamilton was still there, and Lewis Hamilton still had that presence as a 7-time world champion. This year, George Russell is coming into the season as the number one, as the focus point of Mercedes. Will obviously get the team orders, will ever get that, whatever strategy he wants. But is the car going to be quick enough for George to be up there in the race wins? We'll have to find out in Melbourne. And I'm predicting George Russell 100 to 115 points. No, actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to predict George Russell 150 points. Lewis Hamilton in fifth in the Ferrari for the first time in ages. We're not going to see him in Mercedes. But I think this is going to be a good move for Hamilton. Obviously, nowhere near the title fight. But if he can get this season used to the Ferrari strategy, used to the Ferrari car, who knows what next year could be. It is a stepping stone for him and I've put him in 5th. And I'm predicting Lewis Hamilton with a whopping 225 points for the Ferraris. Moving in to the final 4, because obviously we don't count 5th because we already spoke about Hamilton. Who will be my number 1 drivers? Obviously, we still got the likes of Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, the reigning world champion, Oscar Piastri, and the Ferrari star boy, Charles Leclerc. Well, we're going to find out. This is my prediction. In 4th is the reigning world champion, Max Verstappen. I think coming into this season, the McLarens and the Ferraris look quicker than the Red Bull car. Now, obviously, on its day, Max Verstappen is one of the best, maybe not the best drivers on this grid. But, obviously, we've seen him last year on how recklessly he can be, how much he gets the shoulders out, and sometimes how much it can cost him races with points deductions, place deductions, time penalties, and stuff like that. And with obviously the grid getting tighter, stronger, and more teams and more drivers having more chance at the Constructors and Championship, I think this might be the last season Max has that dominant performance. Now, I'm not taking away that he won't win races and stuff, and I'm predicting Max to have a whopping 300 points in the Drivers' Championship, but he will not be the world champion this season. In 3rd, I've gone for the McLaren, Oscar Piastri. Obviously, last year, Oscar finished 4th, so it's 1 place difference. I think Oscar is in this situation of Lando is the number 1 driver. Obviously, McLaren is the quickest car coming in to Melbourne. Oscar obviously been his home race in Melbourne, which obviously will give him good confidence. But over this season, I just think Lando Norris has that more say. People want Lando to win because he's English. He is the star boy of McLaren, and I just think that will give him the little bit of a backseat. Obviously, McLaren have to be smart with their strategies. We saw it last year where Lando had to give up race wins, Piastri had to give up race wins, and I think if McLaren really want a driver to be the world champion, they've got to say, just go and race. Be clean, but race. I don't think they can do, we want this person to win and make the call switch and stuff. I think they've just got to let them two go out it and see who will be the best driver for McLaren. In 2nd, I put the Ferrari star boy, Charles Leclerc. I would like, if I couldn't pick Lando, Charles would be my number 1. But I think he will come 2nd. Again, there is mistakes in his game. We saw it 2 seasons ago when he was really close to Max, and there was loads of mistakes, not just his fault, but Ferrari strategies, DNFs, and mistakes from Leclerc that cost him the world championship. And I think for Charles to be a world champion, he needs to be perfect every single race. He needs to be podiums, wins, and sometimes I think those mistakes will cost him. I'm predicting Charles Leclerc's 350 points. In 1st, Lando Norris, my world champion, the one man that I want to be the F1 champion. We predicted him to win it last year. He came 2nd to Max. But I think this year is the year he does it. I think he will lead McLaren to a drivers' championship, and I think he will get the world championship this year as well. That is what I'm hoping. I may be wrong. It is a prediction. It is what I hoped to win for him to win. But I'm predicting 400 points for Lando Norris. That is my 2025's Drivers Constructors Championship predictions. If you did like it, give it a thumbs up. Leave me comments in below if you agree. If you disagree, that's totally fine. Like I said throughout the video, this is my personal opinion, what I think could happen, what I want to happen. It doesn't mean it will happen. So if you do disagree, that's totally fine. Let me know in the comments down below who you think will win, and if you do disagree with someone, put them where you think they will happen, and I'm obviously happy to discuss that. Like the video, hit that notification bell, please subscribe, trying to hit 500 subs by the end of this year, and I will see you. Goodbye.